Would you like a fun game between the two of us?
Alright guys, so right now I want to talk about Camellya. She's a new character that I picked up and she's really fun to play. I love her animations, her style. But I want to talk about her resident skill and Forte gauge to give you an idea of how I play her and what I think about her. And you guys can kind of weigh in on that if you play her a little differently or you see something more efficient. Alright, so first off, let's go ahead and talk about her resident skill. Basically, her resident skill, which is the E button on your keyboard to playing with a computer like I am, and this is going to take you into blossom mode. And you can tell when you change modes because you are normally running on the ground, but once you perform your E skill, all of a sudden you'll be swinging from 4 vines or from 3 vines. And what you also have to recognize that the way that she plays, when you perform the E skill, you're going to get a different mode whether your concerto gauge is full or whether it is not full. And just to make sure you know what a concerto gauge is, this is what I'm showing you right here. So if this concerto gauge is full, you're going to get a different attack than if it's not full when you perform your E skill. So right now we're just going to talk about what will happen if your concerto gauge is not full. And you have to understand that you're constantly trying to fill your concerto gauge while you're playing her. So you have to kind of watch that to know which mode you're going to go into. So let's talk about this. First off, when she performs the E skill and her concerto gauge is not full, you're going to go into blossom mode. And in blossom mode, you're going to all of a sudden be swinging from 3 vines. You'll be airborne. You perform 4 basic attacks, and this takes you into vining waltz mode. And vining waltz, basically, you'll see her, she'll be suspended upside down for a second, and then you're going to perform 3 basic attacks in vining waltz mode. But after the 3rd basic attack, you want to hold down the left click to go into blazing waltz, which is basically going to deal havoc damage. If you miss the 3rd attack and say you go into the 4th, I mean, that's fine. You perform 4 attacks. You just were not going to get the damage of blazing waltz. So you always want to go into blazing waltz if possible. But if you go through the 4 attacks, hey, just come back and do it again. And just like any character, when you're in a different mode, your dodge counter is different, your normal attacks are going to be different, and your E skill is going to be different. And keep this in mind that we're still talking about when your concerto gauge is not full. If you perform your E skill while in blossom mode or vining waltz or blazing waltz mode, you're going to get floral ravage. And basically just going to be a different animation, a different attack, different damage. However, this floral ravage is going to take you out of that mode and bring you back down to the ground. So this is kind of how you end those modes if you want to. And so you can go back into something else. And that's the main thing you need to know. Of course, the jumps are going to be different. They call it vining ronde. And that's the main thing you need to know about the E skill when the concerto gauge is not full. So now let's go to the Forte circuit, and then we're going to talk about what happens when you perform the E skill and the concerto gauge is full. So basically, when the concerto gauge is full, you're going to perform a different attack called Ephemeral. And what this does is, when it's not on cooldown, Ephemeral, you're going to consume 70 concerto energy and you're going to deal havoc damage, and then you're going to enter budding mode. So in budding mode, which can be cast in midair, all of this can be cast in midair, so keep that in mind also. They call it Sweet Dream, which is where you increase the damage multiplier of basically, you can see the list here: normal attack, vining waltz, blazing waltz. Basically everything you're going to do, the damage multiplier is going to be increased by 50%. So you get a 50% more damage, not necessarily more damage, but your multiplier is going to be increased by 50%, which is going to be big damage. And you also have to see this. Crimson buds. Each crimson bud consumed additionally increase the damage multiplier of Sweet Dream by 5% up to 50%. And basically what that is basically her Forte gauge. If this is full, you can get another 50% on the damage multiplier. So you kind of want to go into this mode when your Concerto gauge is full, and your Forte gauge is full also to get the maximum amount of damage. And this budding mode, you cannot gain Crimson Buzz, meaning you can't refill your Forte gauge while you're in this mode. You're basically going to do all the damage you can until your gauge is empty, and you're going to come out of this mode and try to build it back up again. And budding mode ends when she is switched off the field, or budding mode ends when all Crimson Pistols are consumed, meaning when your Forte gauge runs out. And you can hold up to 100 Crimson Pistols, and you also, her intro skill, Ever Blooming, recovers 100 Crimson Pistols. So if you perform the intro skill with Camellya, you're automatically going to get a filled Forte gauge. So that's kind of very interesting. And now, I also want to mention, guys, about her Forte gauge. The thing is, she has these long strings and these long combos. When you're fighting the tougher bosses, they're going to be able to interrupt those strings. So you kind of want to look at this. We have like a gain 15% havoc damage bonus, gain increased resistance to interruption when casting basic attacks, Binding Waltz and Blazing Waltz. So basically it makes it a little bit more difficult for the enemy to interrupt you and knock you out of this mode and knock you out of your combo, so you can perform these long attacks. It's not perfect. You're still going to have to use some evading, some dodge counters here and there. That's especially after you're playing a difficult boss. So kind of keep that in mind. This is good to have. I went ahead and got this. You can see I only have up to 5, so I have a long way to go. But I did want to kind of activate this because it does help when you go on to perform, because I do like performing those long combos. But of course, the tougher the content, they will have these bosses who will interrupt those. So keep that in mind, guys. Now that I've kind of gone through it, it reads a little heavy, like it's a lot, but it's not that bad at all. So now let me go ahead and demonstrate exactly what I've been talking about. Alright guys, so first off we're going to go over her basic attacks. And just like all characters, she has 4 basic attacks where you can just left click 4 times. And I'm going to show you the 4 basic attacks right here. And also in her basic attacks, if you hold down left click during the 2nd or 3rd basic attack, she goes into a different animation where she's basically just wailing on the opponent. And this is where I'm going to show you this right here. I'm going to hold down on the 3rd basic attack. And you can see how it differs from when you just do 4 basic attacks compared to 3rd and holding. Alright, so here her Concerto gauge is not filled, so I'm going to go into Blossom mode by pressing the E skill. And after going into Blossom mode, I perform 4 basic attacks. And now I'm going into Binding Waltz. After the 3rd basic attack, I'm holding it down. And now this time I'm going back in, and I'm going to go through the Blossom mode, the Binding Waltz, the Blazing Waltz. However, this time I'm going to try to get my Concerto gauge filled, and I'm going to perform Ephemeral. And what you're going to see is where we want to look at the damage that's being done. She has a lot of, she's not one of those characters that's going to hit you just one time for 60 or 50k damage. She hits you multiple times, and we want to look at the damage multiplier when it kicks in, just to give you an idea of how different it's going to be. And I'm only going to have the Concerto gauge filled, so I'm not going to have the full Forte gauge. So I'm not going to get all of the damage that can be done, but I just want you to see the difference that she can perform when she's in this mode, and to see how much damage she can do. Alright, so let's go ahead and play it. And also when you perform Ephemeral, the initial hit does a lot of damage, guys. And you're going to see how much she does once I fill it up. It's really good damage.
Vitality sour.
And that wasn't even all the damage she can do. But now you're looking at it, you see where it's 1200 for those multiple hits. Where if you looked before, it was around 500 to 700. So the damage is really increased, guys. And then you're gonna see that you have the option to just spam the E skill over and over. But right there, you're gonna see that it comes available again. And right there, you can perform Ephemeral all over again. If you're like playing a boss character, somebody more difficult, you wanna just kind of get that off as much as possible, guys. So, I mean, I didn't go against a tough boss. I just kind of want to show you the basics of her E skill and her Forte gauge. So tell me what you guys think. Did you pick her up? How do you like her? Do you think have you found a better rotation? Just let me know, guys. Also, if you watch this, thank you so much. And I would love if you just like and subscribe. We YouTubers, we're all striving for as much as we can get, guys. So thank you very much. Hey, I appreciate you guys.